My parents charged me $2,500 a month to live under their roof, while my sister paid nothing. When they found out I bought a house in cash and left, they went ballistic. I stand by the window and watch as a familiar gray Toyota pulls up to my building. My heart is beating so fast it feels like it's about to jump out of my chest. My mother gets out first, her back straight, a bag in her hand, her face stony. Behind her is Ginny with her phone, filming everything. My father gets out last, sighs heavily, and closes the car door. 3 weeks. I haven't seen them for 3 weeks since that day when I just packed my things and left. I left a short note on the kitchen table. I've moved, I'll call. I didn't call. I couldn't. My phone vibrates on the windowsill. Another message from Ginny. I know what it says without even reading it. Something like, "You destroyed our family," or "Mom cries all day because of you." I get messages like this every day, sometimes 10 a night. Mom walks to the door with a determined stride. Ginny trails behind her, still holding her phone in front of her. Dad stops by the car, looking at my house as if he sees something shameful. I take a sip of cold coffee. My hands are shaking. I know I have to open the door. I know I have to talk. But part of me wants to hide in my bedroom, close the door, and pretend I'm not home. The doorbell rings sharply, insistently. My mother is not the type to wait long. I put my mug on the windowsill and go to the hall. My reflection in the mirror by the coat rack looks pale and tired. My hair is tied back in a ponytail, and I'm wearing old jeans and a sweater. I haven't slept properly since the day I moved. Every night I wake up from nightmares where my mother is yelling at me and I can't say a word. Another ring, long and irritated. I put my hand on the doorknob and stop. I close my eyes. I breathe. A year and a half ago, I would never have believed that I would end up here, in my own house, with my own rules, without having to report where I was and why I was 15 minutes late. A year and a half ago, I was still the Vera who always agreed, always kept quiet, always paid. Chapter 1. Justice on Schedule. A year and a half ago, September. The alarm clock rings at 6:30 a.m., as usual. I turn it off and lie there for another minute, staring at the ceiling of my room. The room I've lived in since I was 14 when we moved into this house. The pink wallpaper I chose as a teenager has faded. A poster of some old pop group I've long forgotten, a shelf with books I haven't read in years, a quick shower, an even quicker breakfast. In the kitchen, my mother is already bustling about the stove, making scrambled eggs for Ginny. My sister is still asleep, of course. She never wakes up before 9. "Good morning," I say, pouring myself some coffee. "Don't forget to pick up Ginny from her class at 4. I'm busy until 6 today. I have 3 dye jobs in a row." "Okay." "And buy milk on your way home. We're out." "Okay." "Oh, and I need you to clean the kitchen tonight. My back hurts after yesterday." I nod and take a sip of coffee. It's hot and strong. The only good thing about this morning. My father comes out of the bathroom already dressed in his work overalls with the logo of his company, DH Heating. He glances at me briefly, nods, and sits down at the table. My mother places a plate of eggs and bacon in front of him. "I'll be late today," he says without looking up. "Installation in Greenville. It's a long way to go." "Okay," my mother replies. "I'll leave dinner in the fridge." They don't need to say anything else. They live according to a schedule that has been worked out over the years. Dad works, Mom works, I work, Ginny studies. I take the bus to work. 45 minutes across town to the office center on Maplewood Avenue. Stellar Investments occupies the entire 4th floor. I'm a secretary, answering calls, setting up meetings, making coffee for clients, sorting mail. The work is boring but stable. The pay is decent, $4,800 a month. My boss, Marcus Chow, arrives at 9, as usual. He is about 40, neatly trimmed, always in a suit. He is Asian and moved here from Singapore about 10 years ago. We are more like friends than boss and subordinate. He is the only one who treats me like a person, not a function. "Good morning, Vera," he says, putting his bag on the table. "How are you?" "Fine. You have a meeting with Mr. Jenkins at 10. "Oh, right. Old Jenkins and his pension fund. Marcus smiles. Does he want to convert everything to bonds again? Looks like it. Boring. He sighs and goes to his office. Can you bring me some coffee, please? The day drags on. Phone calls, emails, more phone calls. At 4 o'clock, I take a taxi to the Beauty Skills Training Center, where Ginny is taking classes. When I pull up, she's sitting on a bench by the entrance, scrolling through her phone. Finally, she says without looking up. I've been here for 15 minutes. Sorry, traffic. She rolls her eyes and gets in the car. She's silent the whole way home, staring at her screen. I see a glare. She's watching some video on TikTok. How are the classes? I ask, just to say something. Fine. Are you learning anything new? Mm-hmm. Conversation over. Ginny doesn't like talking to me. To her, I'm some kind of incomprehensible life form, an older sister who works as a secretary instead of doing something normal. When we get home, Mom is already there. She's sitting in the living room with her laptop looking at some spreadsheets. Ginny, go get changed, she says, without looking up from the screen. Ver, did you buy milk? I take the bag out of my purse. Mom nods. Good. Make dinner, please. I need to finish these calculations. I go to the kitchen and start cooking. Pasta with sauce, salad, nothing complicated. Ginny walks by, already in her home clothes. Some sweatpants and a t-shirt. Mom, when are we going to see that place? She asks. What place? I ask. My mother looks up. For the new salon. I want to open a second location. Ginny will work there when she finishes her courses. Ginny smiles, pleased. I stir the sauce and say nothing. A second salon. That requires money. A lot of money. Dad comes home at 7 in the evening, tired and silent. We have dinner together. A rare event lately. Usually someone eats earlier or later, but today we are all at the table. Mom sets the table. Dad pours himself some water. Ginny is on her phone again. Ginny, put your phone away, Mom says. We need to talk. Ginny reluctantly puts her phone down. Mom exchanges glances with Dad. He nods slightly. Vera, Mom begins, and I immediately tense up. When she calls me that, it means something serious. You're 28 years old. You've been working for a long time, earning good money. I wait. I feel something tighten inside. Your father and I have decided that it's time for you to become truly independent. If you live under our roof, it's only fair that you pay for it. Pause. I can hear my heart beating. How much? I ask quietly. $2,500 a month. That includes rent, utilities, and internet. Pretty fair, in my opinion. $2,500. That's more than half my salary. I look back at Ginny. She's staring at her plate, but the corners of her lips are turning up slightly. And, will Ginny be paying too? I ask. My mother looks at me coldly. Ginny is a student. She hasn't finished her studies yet. She doesn't work. It's completely different. But she's been studying for 2 years. Vera. My mother's voice is firm. Don't argue. This is our decision. If you don't like it, you can look for another place to live. My father is silent. He is always silent when he has something to say. I look at my plate. The sauce has congealed. The pasta has stuck together. Okay, I say. I'll pay. My mother smiles, satisfied. That's wonderful. I knew you would understand. You're a smart girl. Ginny picks up her phone and buries herself in the screen again. My father finishes his dinner and goes to the living room to watch the news. My mother clears the plates. I sit at the table and look out the window. It's getting dark outside. October is almost over. The days are getting shorter. $2,500 a month. For the room I've been living in since I was 14. For the right to be here, in this house, where no one asks me how my day went. Where I'm just a function. A driver for Ginny, a milk buyer, a kitchen cleaner. I get up and go to my room. I close the door and sit on the bed. I take out my phone, open the bank app, I look at my balance. After paying for housing, I will have $2,300 left per month. For everything. For food, clothes, transportation, small expenses. For living. I lie on my back and look at the ceiling. Pink wallpaper. An old poster. A shelf with books. I am 28 years old and I live in a child's room, paying half my salary for it. And I agreed to it because I don't know how to say no, because I'm used to being a good daughter, because I'm afraid of what will happen if I object. My phone vibrates. A message from Ginny. "Lol, sis, now you're a real tenant." I turn off the screen and close my eyes. I made my first payment on November 5th. My mother gave me her account number, and I transferred $2,500 through the bank app. I press the confirmation button and watch the numbers on my balance decrease. $2,300 left. For a month. For everything. I started counting. Transportation. $180 per month. Lunches at work. Another $200 if I buy the cheapest sandwiches in the cafeteria. Phone, $60. Cosmetics, clothes, at least $100. That leaves $1,760. Seems pretty good until you think about unexpected expenses. Birthday gifts. The fact that I'll need to buy new boots in winter because my old ones are falling apart. I made an Excel spreadsheet and started entering every expense. $5 for coffee. Recorded. $3 for chocolate. Recorded. $12 for a taxi because I was late to pick up Ginny. Recorded. Marcus noticed it a week later. "Vera, are you okay?" he asked when I once again refused to have lunch with him at the Thai diner across the street. "You've been kind of reserved lately." We were sitting in his office and I had brought him some documents to sign. It was drizzling outside, the gray sky blending with the gray buildings outside the window. "Everything's fine," I replied. "I'm just saving a little money." He looked at me more closely. "Money problems?" I wanted to say no, as usual, but there was something so sincere, so caring in his gaze that I couldn't help myself. "My parents asked me to pay for my housing, $2,500 a month." Marcus whistled. "That's a lot." "Have you thought about getting your own place?" "With what?" I smiled without joy. "After my payments, I have a little over $2,000 left. It's not even enough to rent a studio apartment." He thought for a moment, tapping his fingers on the table. "I understand. It's a difficult situation." Pause. "You know, Vera, if you ever need an extra job, I sometimes have freelance projects, preparing presentations, analyzing data. Nothing complicated, but they pay well." I nodded, grateful even for the offer itself. "Thank you. I'll think about it." December arrived with snow and pre-New Year's hustle and bustle. My mother talked about the second salon all the time, at dinner, at breakfast, on weekends. She found a space on Oakland Street and wanted to rent it starting in the new year. "It's the perfect location," she said, showing photos on her phone. "There's a shopping center nearby, lots of traffic. The rent is a little high, but we'll manage." Ginny listened, beaming. She already saw herself as the director of this salon, even though she hadn't finished the course. Again. It turned out that the instructor couldn't explain the balayage technique properly, so Ginny dropped out in November. "Ginny, don't worry," her mother reassured her. "I'll teach you everything myself." "You don't need these courses. It's better to get some hands-on experience at the salon right away." My father was silent as always. But one evening, when my mother went to the bathroom and Ginny went to her room, he looked at me and said quietly, "Don't borrow money if they ask you to." I shuddered. He knew. Of course he knew where my $2,500 were going. It was a December morning, a week before Christmas. Marcus came to work with 2 cups of coffee from Starbucks, a rarity for him as he usually drank coffee from the vending machine in the office. "For you," he said, placing 1 cup on my desk. "Caramel latte, I remember you like it." I smiled, grateful for the small gesture. "Thank you. What's the occasion?" He sat down on the edge of my desk, holding his coffee. "No occasion, I just wanted to do something nice." He paused, then added, "You know, Vera, I wanted to talk to you about investments." I looked up. "Investments?" "Yes." "You work at a brokerage firm, but you've never been interested in the stock market, right?" I shrugged. "I've never had the spare cash for it." "I understand, but listen." He leaned closer, his voice becoming quieter, as if he were sharing a secret. There's a company called Neuropass. They're developing a migraine medication. It's small and little known, but I've been following them for a year. They've submitted their drug for approval to the European Medicines Agency. If it gets approved, and all the data shows that it will, the stock will skyrocket. I listened, not quite understanding where he was going with this. What are you trying to say? I bought their stock, $15,000 worth. He smiled. It's a risk, of course, but I believe in it. The drug really works. The clinical trials are excellent. If all goes well, I can earn 3 or even 5 times as much. I nodded, imagining $15,000. For me, it was an astronomical amount, half a year's salary. You're a brave person, I said sincerely. Or stupid, he laughed. Time will tell, but I wouldn't advise you to ignore it. If you have any savings, even $500, you can try it. There's risk, but the potential is huge. I thought about my bank account. After my November and December payments to my parents, after all my expenses, I had $1,500 left. That was all I had been able to save over the previous year when I wasn't paying for housing. My safety net, as I called it. Spend it all on shares in some unknown company? That's crazy. But Marcus isn't stupid. He's been working in this field for 10 years. He knows what he's doing. I'll think about it, I said. He nodded and went to his office. I sat at the table, holding a warm cup of coffee in my hands, and looked out the window. Snow was falling in large flakes, covering the street with a white carpet. That evening, when I got home, I opened my laptop and found information about Neuropass, a small biotech company headquartered in Boston. It is developing a drug called Migrelif for the treatment of chronic migraines. Phase 3. Clinical trials have been completed successfully. An application for approval had been submitted to the EMA. The shares were priced at $18 apiece. I looked at my bank balance, $1,500. If I lost it, I would have nothing. No savings, no safety net. But what if Marcus was right? What if the stock really did take off? I closed my eyes and imagined what it would be like to have money, real money, not $2,300 a month after paying my parents, but something more, enough to rent my own apartment, enough not to have to count every dollar. I opened the brokerage app I had installed when I first started working at Stellar Investments, but had never used. I entered my bank account details. I found Neuropass shares, $18 apiece. With $1,500, I could buy 83 shares. My finger hovered over the buy button. It was crazy. It was risky. It could be the biggest mistake of my life. But I clicked. A confirmation appeared on the screen. You have purchased 83 shares of Neuropass at a price of $18 per share. Total, $1,494. I closed my laptop and lay down on my bed, staring at the ceiling. My heart was beating fast. I had just spent all my savings on something I didn't understand, but for some reason, I didn't regret it. Christmas passed quietly. My mother was on the phone with the landlord of the new premises the whole time. My father was on call even on holidays, and Ginny was on her phone. I bought gifts for everyone. Perfume for my mother, a thermos mug for my father, and a gift certificate for cosmetics for Ginny. That cost me another $200, which I had to set aside for January expenses. Now I had $6 and a few cents left in my account. It was still a week until my next paycheck. I ate macaroni and cheese and tried not to think about Neuropass shares. I tried not to open the broker's app every hour to check the price, but I couldn't help myself. $19, $17, $20. The stock jumped up and down, and my heart jumped with it. One evening in early January, I overheard my parents talking. They were sitting in the living room thinking I was already in my room, but I was coming down the stairs for a glass of water. How much more do we need? My father asked. $20,000, my mother replied. The landlord wants a 3-month deposit plus repairs plus equipment. $20,000. My father sighed. Where will we get it? We'll take out a loan. We have Verina's fee. We'll be able to pay it back. I froze on the stairs. Verena's fee, $2,500 a month. They're counting on that money, my money, to pay off the loan for Ginny's salon. I don't know, Lorraine, my father said slowly. It's a big risk. What if the salon doesn't work out? It will work out. I know what I'm doing. Ginny will be a great manager when I train her. I quietly went back up to my room. I didn't take any water. I lay on my bed and stared into the darkness. Now I knew. My $2,500 wasn't about independence. It wasn't about teaching me responsibility. It was about financing my mother's dream, about Ginny, who doesn't work or study, but will have her own salon. And me? I'm just an ATM, convenient, predictable, never complaining. I picked up my phone and opened the broker app. NeuroPass shares were trading at $17. I lost $1 per share, $83 in total. But I didn't sell. I believed in Marcus. I believed this was my chance, my only chance to escape this house, where I was just a function, just a source of income. I closed the app and fell asleep hugging my pillow. Outside the window, snow was falling, covering the world with a quiet white blanket. The year flew by unnoticed, the same route every day. Bus, office, bus, home, the same faces, the same conversations. My mother opened a second salon in March, and Ginny worked there as an administrator, although she mostly sat on her phone and occasionally wrote down clients' names in a journal. My father started coming home even later. The loan had to be paid off somehow. I paid my $2,500 every month on the 5th, like a tax for the right to exist in this house, like a fee to keep my mother from reminding me what an ungrateful daughter I was. I forgot about the NeuroPass promotion. At first, I opened the app every day, then once a week, then once a month. The price fluctuated. $17, then $21, then $18 again. Nothing special. I resigned myself to the idea that those $1,500 were simply gone. Maybe someday I'll get it back when NeuroPass finally gets approved. Or maybe it won't, and I'll lose everything. I turned 29 in May. My mother baked a cake, Ginny gave me some cheap hand cream, and my father gave me $100 in an envelope. For something nice, he said. I thanked him and put the money aside for my next payment to my parents. In the summer, my mother started hinting that it would be nice if I helped with the repairs in the new salon. Just a little, Verachka. $5,000. You see how hard it is for us. I said I didn't have any spare cash. She was offended for a week, didn't talk to me, only passed on requests through Ginny. Tell your sister to pick me up at 5. Ask your sister if she bought milk. I got used to it. You can get used to anything if it goes on long enough. September 8th, Monday. A typical gray morning. I came to work at 8:30 as usual. I turned on the computer, made coffee, and checked my email. Marcus usually came in at 9, but that day he showed up at 8:45. His face looked different, not tired as usual, but excited, almost bright. Vera, he said, stopping at my desk, can you come into my office? We need to talk. My heart skipped a beat. We need to talk never meant anything good. Dismissal? Layoffs? Did I do something wrong? I followed him to his office. He closed the door and gestured for me to sit down. He sat down opposite me, folding his arms on the table. I'm quitting, he said without preamble. I felt the ground slip away beneath my feet. What? Was all I could say. I'm quitting. My last day will be at the end of this month. He smiled, and there was something happy about that smile. I'm starting my own business, investment consulting. I've always dreamed of doing this. I couldn't gather my thoughts. Marcus was the only person here I could talk to, the only one who treated me like a human being, and now he was leaving. But why now? I asked. What happened? He leaned forward, his eyes shining. Remember NeuroPass? I nodded. Of course I remembered. My shares were still sitting in my account, forgotten and meaningless. Last week they received approval from the European Medicines Agency. Final, full approval. The drug will be on the market in October. He paused. The shares have skyrocketed. My heart beat faster. How much? 250 times the original price. He laughed and leaned back in his chair. 250, Vera. I sold mine early, when they had only gone up tenfold. I thought that was the limit. I made 150,000 instead of 15. That's enough to start a business and get through the first year. I couldn't breathe. 250 times. My shares. 83 shares at $18. 18 times 250, I muttered, trying to calculate in my head. 4,500, Marcus prompted me. Why do you ask? I looked at him. I bought them. Back when you told me about them, I bought $1,500 worth. His eyes widened. You bought them? You never mentioned. I forgot, I said honestly. I just forgot about them. He grabbed the calculator from the table and quickly pressed the buttons. 83 shares at $18 each is $1,494. If they've gone up to 4,500, he looked up at me. Vera, you should have about $370,000 there. Silence. I could hear the clock ticking on the wall, the air conditioner humming, my heart beating so loudly it felt like it was about to jump out of my chest. What? I whispered. $370,000. Approximately. It depends on the exact price at the time of sale, but somewhere around that. I stood up. My legs wouldn't hold me. I need to check. Of course. Go ahead. Marcus smiled. And Vera? Congratulations. You just changed your life. I left the office in a daze. I sat down at my desk. My hands were shaking so badly that I couldn't unlock my phone on the first try. Second, third. Finally, the screen lit up. I opened the broker's app. I entered my password. I waited for it to load, and then I saw it. Account balance. $369,823. I stared at the numbers. I reloaded the page. The numbers hadn't changed. 369,000. I closed the app, opened it again. The numbers were still the same. This couldn't be true. It was a mistake, a system glitch, something. But it was true. My 83 NeuroPass shares, bought for $18, were now worth $4,447 each. I had made $369,000 just by forgetting about the shares for a year. Tears ran down my cheeks before I could hold them back. I sat at my desk, shaking and crying, while the numbers on the screen glowed, real and unbelievable at the same time. $369,000. It was freedom. I spent the rest of the day on autopilot. I answered calls, sent emails, made coffee. But there was only one refrain in my head. 369,000. 369,000. 369,000. At 5 o'clock, I picked up the phone and called Saya Romero. We'd become friends 3 years ago at yoga, which I had attended for 2 months before my parents started paying for it. Saya worked as a nurse in a hospital, lived alone in a small apartment, had 2 cats, and was the most sensible person I knew. Hey, Ver, she answered. What's up? You never call on weekdays. Can we meet? Now? I need to talk to you. Sounds serious. I finish at 8. Shall we meet at Joe's Cafe? Yes. Thanks. I told Marcus I was leaving early because I wasn't feeling well. He nodded, still with that happy smile, and let me go. I didn't go home. I rode the bus aimlessly, looking out the window, trying to collect my thoughts. What should I do with this money? Tell my parents? Not tell them? What will they say? What will Ginny think? And most importantly, can I just take this money and leave? Am I not obligated to share it with my family? They are my parents. They raised me, gave me a roof over my head. Don't I have to help them? But it's my money. I earned it. I risked my savings. Me, not them. At 8 o'clock, I was sitting in Joe's Cafe with a cup of cold tea when Saya walked in. She was wearing a blue medical uniform, her hair tied back in a bun, her face tired after her shift. Hi, she said, hugging me. You look like you've seen a ghost. Almost, I replied. She ordered coffee and we sat in a corner away from the other customers. I told her everything. About the shares, about Marcus, about the $369,000 that had suddenly appeared in my account, about how I didn't know what to do. Saya listened silently, nodding occasionally. When I finished, she took a sip of coffee and looked at me seriously. "Believe me, I'll tell you one thing, and you don't want to hear it, but I don't care." She leaned closer. "It's your money. You earned it, not your parents, not Ginny, you." "But no." She raised her hand. "No buts. They made you pay $2,500 a month while Ginny paid nothing. They used your money to pay the loan on her salon. They never asked if it was hard for you, if you had enough to live on." Pause. "You don't owe them anything, Vera." I was silent. Saya's words struck painfully at the heart of a truth I didn't want to admit. What if I'm a bad daughter? "You're a wonderful daughter. Too wonderful." Saya sighed. "Listen, I'm not saying you should never talk to them, but right now, you need to think about yourself. Buy yourself a place to live, move, start a new life, and then, when you're ready, decide what to do with your family." I nodded, even though everything inside me resisted, but somewhere deep down, I knew she was right. The next day, I started looking for houses, not apartments, houses, something of my own, where there would be no neighbors behind the wall, where I could do whatever I wanted. I found an ad on Craigslist, a small house on the outskirts of town in the Maple Grove neighborhood. 3 rooms, 1 bathroom, a small yard. The house was old and in need of repair, but it was solid. The price was $190,000. I called the owner, a middle-aged man with a tired voice. He said he inherited the house from his parents. He lives in another state. He can't take care of it. He was willing to sell quickly if the buyer didn't need a mortgage. "I can pay cash," I said, my voice barely trembling. "Really?" He was surprised. "Then come see it. When is convenient?" "Tomorrow. Tomorrow is convenient." I looked at the house on Saturday. It was even older than in the photos. Peeling paint, creaky floors, a kitchen from the last century. But the windows were large, the light was good, and it was quiet. An old maple tree grew in the yard. I stood in the empty living room and imagined myself here, morning coffee by the window, a book on the sofa. No one telling me to pick up my sister or clean the kitchen. "I'll take it," I said to the owner. He blinked. "Don't you want to think about it?" "No, I'll take it. When can we sign the papers?" A week later, the money was transferred and the papers were signed. $190,000 for freedom. The best deal of my life. I didn't say anything to my parents. I just started quietly packing my things, a few bags each day, and took them to my new home. Clothes, books, cosmetics. Nothing big, nothing noticeable. On Friday, September 26th, I took the last bag, wrote a short note. "I've moved. I'll call later," and left it on the kitchen table. I locked the door of my new home and cried with relief. I was free. I didn't sleep on my first night in the new house. I lay on an inflatable mattress in the middle of the empty bedroom, staring at the ceiling and listening to the silence. An unusual, almost ringing silence, unbroken by my mother's footsteps on the stairs, my father's grumbling in the bathroom, or Ginny's laughter from some video on her phone. Just me. Just silence. Just freedom. And panic. What had I done? I just left. I didn't warn them. I didn't explain. I didn't give them a chance to refuse me or convince me to stay. I just packed my things and left, like a thief in the night. My phone was lying on the floor next to me, turned off. I was afraid to turn it on. I knew what was waiting for me there. But in the morning, I had to call work to let them know I was taking a few days off to get settled. I pressed the power button and waited for the phone to boot up. 43 missed calls, 68 messages, most of them from my mother. "Where are you? Call me immediately. What nonsense did you write in that note? Is this some kind of joke?" Then the tone changed to a harsher one. "Do you realize what you've done? Dad and I haven't slept all night. How could you do this to your family?" Ginny was shorter, but more vicious. "You're selfish. You ruined everything. Mom is crying because of you. I hope you're happy without us." My father sent one message at 3 in the morning. "We gave you a roof over your head. You don't do things like this." I sat on the kitchen floor with my knees pressed to my chest and read the messages one after another. Every word was like a blow. They considered me a traitor, ungrateful, a bad daughter. Maybe they were right? I typed a message to my mother. "I'm fine. I've moved into my own place. I'll call when I'm ready to talk." I hit send before I could change my mind. The reply came instantly. "Your own place? With what money? Are you hiding something from us?" I didn't reply. I turned off my phone again and started unpacking my things. The first week was strange. I woke up and didn't know where I was. Then I remembered, this is my house, my bedroom, my rules. I could have breakfast at noon if I wanted to. I could skip cleaning the kitchen right after dinner. I could just sit by the window with a book and not feel guilty for not doing something useful. But freedom turned out to be harder than I thought. Without structure, without my mother's constant instructions, I felt lost. What should I do with all this time? With all this silence? I bought furniture, not new, secondhand. A sofa, a table, 2 armchairs. I hung curtains. I put my books on the shelf. The house slowly began to feel like home, but the phone wouldn't stop ringing. My mother called every day, sometimes several times. I didn't answer. Ginny sent me messages. At first angry ones, then almost pleading ones. "Vera, please, just tell me you're okay. Mom is going crazy." My father was silent. Saya came to see me on the 3rd day. She brought pizza, wine, and a cat in a carrier. "This is Roger," she said, opening the carrier door. A large ginger cat with a suspicious look came out. "He's been in the shelter for 2 years. He doesn't like people. The perfect match for you right now." I laughed for the first time in a week. Roger sniffed around the kitchen, found the warmest spot by the radiator, and settled in, ignoring us. "So, how are you?" Saya asked, pouring wine into paper cups. I didn't have any proper glasses yet. "I don't know," I replied honestly. "I'm free, but I feel guilty. All the time. Like I've done something terrible." Saya nodded. "That's normal. You've spent your whole life trying to meet their expectations. Now you're living for yourself for the first time. It's scary. They think I'm selfish." "Do you think you're selfish?" I thought about it. I thought for a long time. No, I think I finally started taking care of myself. But they don't like it because I'm no longer convenient for them. "You see," Saya smiled, "you already understand more than you did a week ago." We ate pizza, drank wine, and talked about everything except family. About work, about a new TV series, about how Roger had already taken my favorite chair. When Saya left, the house seemed a little less empty. On the 8th day, I turned on my phone and listened to a voicemail from my mother. Her voice was tired, almost broken. "Vera, it's Mom. Please call me. We need to talk." "I don't understand what happened. Why did you do that? We're your family." Pause. Heavy breathing. "Dad says I should leave you alone, but I can't. You're my daughter. Where are you? Are you safe? Do you have a place to live? Do you have money?" I almost called her then. Almost. But something stopped me. That "do you have money" didn't sound like concern. It sounded like suspicion. Instead of calling, I sent another message. "I'm fine. I have a place to live. I have a job. I just need time." My mother replied 5 minutes later, "Time for what? We didn't do anything bad to you. We just wanted you to be responsible. It's normal for an adult to pay for housing." I started typing a reply, then deleted it. I typed again, then deleted again. In the end, I just blocked the message and put my phone away. Day 10, Saturday. I woke up to the doorbell ringing, loud and insistent. I glanced at the clock. 9 in the morning. Who could it be? I went to the door and looked through the peephole and froze. My mother and Ginny, standing on my porch. My heart was pounding so hard I thought it would jump out of my chest. How did they find me? Another ring. My mother sees my shadow in the peephole. "Vera, I know you're home. Open up." I took a deep breath. I can't hide forever. I have to face this. I opened the door. My mother stood on the threshold, her face tense, her lips pressed into a thin line. She was wearing her favorite blue jacket, her hair neatly pulled back, but there were dark circles under her eyes. Ginny was behind her, wearing a tracksuit, phone in hand, camera pointed at me. "Ginny, put your phone away," I said quietly. "No," she replied. "I want to record this, in case you disappear again." My mother nudged her gently. "Ginny, please." Then she looked at me. "Can we come in?" I hesitated. Then I stepped back, letting them in. They entered, looking around. My mother looked at my secondhand sofa, the old curtains, Roger watching them suspiciously from his chair. "So this is your own place," my mother said. "How did you pay for it, Vera?" I closed the door and turned to face them. "It's none of your business." "None of our business?" My mother's voice rose. "You're my daughter. Of course it's my business. You didn't contact us for 10 days, didn't tell us where you were or how you were, and now it turns out you've bought a house. A house, Vera. With what money?" "My own." "What do you mean, your own? You've never had that much money. You paid us $2,500 a month. You barely had enough to live on." "That's right," I said quietly. "Barely enough to live on. Because you took half my salary." "We didn't take it. You paid for your housing. It's fair." "Why didn't Ginny pay?" Silence. My mother pressed her lips together. "Ginny was studying. Ginny studied for 2 years and didn't finish any courses. Ginny doesn't work. Ginny lives off you, and I have to pay $2,500 so you can pay off the loan for her salon." "Where did you—" "I heard your conversation with Dad in January. You planned to use my money for the loan." Mom looked away. Ginny stared at her phone, but I could see her cheeks flush. "We're family," Mom finally said. "Families help each other." "Families help each other," I repeated. "But for some reason, I've always helped you, and you've never helped me. We gave you a roof over your head for $2,500 a month. We raised you. That's your duty as parents. I don't owe you anything for that." My mother flinched as if I had hit her. Ginny raised her head, her eyes filled with tears. "Are you really that selfish?" she asked quietly. "I don't have a job. I don't have any money. I can't afford an apartment. And you bought a house and didn't even think to help me?" Something snapped inside me. All those years of silence, agreement, submission, everything exploded at once. "Help you?" I laughed, but it was a bitter laugh. "Ginny, you're 27 years old. You haven't worked a day in your life. You haven't finished any courses. You haven't done anything except sit on your phone and wait for Mom to fix everything for you. And me, I've been working since I was 18. I paid my bills. I gave you half my salary. And now that I finally have something of my own, you want me to share it?" "Yes," Ginny exclaimed, "because we're sisters. Because you have to help me." "No, I don't have to do anything." "You're not my responsibility." My mother stepped forward, her face red. "So money is more important to you than family?" I looked her straight in the eye. "The money I earned myself is more important than your manipulation. Yes." The silence was deafening. My mother stared at me as if she didn't recognize me. Ginny cried loudly, theatrically. "I don't believe it," my mother whispered. "I don't believe my daughter could be so cold." "I'm not cold," I said, my voice calm, though inside I was trembling. "I'm just tired. Tired of being convenient. Tired of paying for your dreams. Tired of never being asked what I want." "What do you want?" my mother asked sharply. "To live. Just to live. Without guilt. Without responsibilities that no one but me fulfills. Without having to justify my existence." My mother picked up her bag. "Let's go, Ginny. We're not welcome here." Ginny walked to the door, sobbing. At the threshold, she turned around. "You'll regret this. When you need a family, We won't be there." "Maybe," I replied, "but at least I'll be myself." They left. I closed the door and leaned against it, sliding down until I was on the floor. Roger came over and rubbed against my arm. I stroked him, and he purred for the first time. Tears streamed down my cheeks, but they weren't tears of regret. They were tears of relief. I had told them the truth, finally, and the world didn't fall apart. The first month after that conversation was the hardest. I woke up at night and checked my phone. Suddenly, someone had written, but there was only silence. My mother didn't call. Ginny blocked me everywhere. On Instagram, Facebook, even on Messenger. My father was silent as always. I told myself that it was normal, that I needed this space. But my heart ached constantly, a dull, boring pain that wouldn't go away. Saya came to see me every weekend. She brought food because I forgot to eat. She sat with me in the kitchen, talked about work, her crazy patients, her cats. She tried to make me laugh. Sometimes it worked. "You know what you need?" she said once as we sat on my porch with coffee. It was the end of October and the leaves were falling in golden swirls. "You need to do something. Fill this house with life." "How?" "Renovate, for example. I saw your bathroom. It has tiles from the 70s. I laughed. "I don't know how to renovate." "YouTube can teach you anything. Trust me." The next day, I started watching videos about laying tiles, then about painting walls, then about replacing old door handles. I bought tools at a hardware store, a hammer, screwdrivers, a level. The salesperson looked at me skeptically when I asked what kind of trowel I needed for the tiles. My first attempts were terrible. I painted one wall in the living room light beige, and it looked like a drunk painter had run across it. Stains, drips, uneven edges. I sat on the floor and looked at the mess and suddenly started laughing. I laughed so hard that my stomach hurt. It was my wall, my terrible, uneven, stained wall. And I didn't care because no one was standing nearby criticizing my every move. I repainted it the next day. It turned out better. In November, my father sent a text message. 1, at 3 in the morning. "Your mother is sick because of you. I hope you're happy." I read that message over and over again until the words blurred. Sick. Because of me. I made my mother sick. My fingers froze over the keyboard. I wanted to write, "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. I'll make everything the way it was." But I didn't. Instead, I blocked my parents' number and cried into my pillow until morning. Roger lay next to me, purring. He wasn't hiding from me anymore. He even let me pet him. In the morning, I called Saya. "My father wrote that my mother is sick because of me." Saya sighed into the phone. "Believe me, it's manipulation. Classic. They want you to feel guilty and come back." "What if she's really sick?" "Then she'll go to the doctor. Like a grown woman. It's not your responsibility to treat your mother's emotional trauma, which she inflicts on herself." I knew Saya was right. But knowing and feeling are two different things. December came with snow and holiday hustle and bustle. The city was decorated with lights, Christmas music played in stores, and people hurried with gifts. I stood in the middle of all this noise and felt invisible. My first Christmas without my family. Saya invited me to her place, but I refused. I didn't want to be a burden. Instead, I bought a small Christmas tree at the supermarket, put it in the corner of the living room, and decorated it with a few toys. It looked lonely, but it was mine. On December 24th, I painted the kitchen. I chose a light yellow color. Cheerful and sunny. Brushstroke by brushstroke, the wall gradually transformed. I listened to music on my headphones and didn't notice how time was passing. Suddenly, I heard a knock. I turned around. A man of about 50 with gray hair and a patch of beard was looking through the window. He was waving his hand. I took out my headphones and went to the door. "Yes?" I asked cautiously. "Hi, neighbor," he said with a smile. "I'm Glenn. I live 2 houses down from you. I saw you were renovating and thought I'd come over to say hello." "Vera," I introduced myself. "Is it obvious that I'm renovating?" He laughed. "Well, the paint stains on your hair give you away a little. And I saw you trying to carry out the old toilet last week." You almost broke your back. I blushed. I managed. I'm sure you did. He put his hands in his jacket pockets. Listen, I'm retired, a former electrician. If you need help with wiring or anything else, let me know. I'm bored anyway. I hesitated. A stranger offering help. It could be dangerous. But there was something sincere and friendly in his eyes. I do have a problem with the outlet in my bedroom, I admitted. It sparks. Let me see. He came in, looked at the outlet, and whistled. It's a fire hazard. Give me 15 minutes. I'll go home and get my tools. He came back with a toolbox and worked quickly and carefully. I stood in the doorway and watched. How much do I owe you? I asked when he was done. Nothing. Just helping out a neighbor. He wiped his hands on his pants. But if you want to thank me, make me some coffee. I smelled it when I came in. It smells great. We sat in the kitchen, drinking coffee from paper cups. I still didn't have any proper dishes. Glenn told me about himself. He had worked as an electrician for 30 years before retiring. His wife had died of cancer 5 years ago. His children lived in another state and rarely visited. And you? He asked. A young girl, alone in the house. That's rare these days. I told him the short version. About my parents, about the money, about leaving. He listened attentively, without interrupting. You know, he said when I finished, I had a similar story. 25 years ago. My parents were difficult people. Constant complaints, manipulation, guilt. I lived with them until I was 32 because I was afraid to leave. I was afraid I would be a bad son. And what happened? One day, I just packed my things and left for another city. I didn't warn them, didn't explain. I just disappeared. He smiled sadly. They looked for me, of course. They wrote letters, called. I didn't answer. A year, 2, 5. Then they stopped. And you didn't regret it? I regretted it for the first few years, constantly. I thought I was a monster for abandoning my elderly parents, but then I realized I didn't abandon them. I saved myself. He looked at me. And you too. You saved yourself, Vera. Don't forget that. I felt better after that conversation. It was as if someone had given me permission to be who I am. Glenn started coming over more often. He helped with small repairs, drank coffee, told stories. He was like the father I never had, someone who listens, supports, and asks for nothing in return. In January, Marcus called me. Vera, how are you? I haven't heard from you in a while. Fine, I'm living, settling in. Listen, I started my own company, as you know. We need an office manager, someone who understands the work and knows how to organize processes. I immediately thought of you. The salary is 1,000 more than you're making now. Interested? I was more than interested. A new job meant a new beginning, new people, a new atmosphere. I started working for Marcus in February. It was a small company with 4 employees and an office in the city center. The atmosphere was friendly and relaxed. No one asked stupid questions about my past or demanded constant reports on my every move. I felt alive for the first time in a long time. March, April, May. Spring came with warmth and the smell of fresh grass. I planted flowers in the yard, tulips, daffodils. They sprouted, reaching for the sun, and I looked at them every morning with my coffee in my hands. Roger was getting fatter, even more independent and pompous. He only let me pet him when he wanted to, but he slept on my bed every night. Glenn brought his daughter Kara when she came to visit. She was 38, worked as a teacher, and had 2 sons. We sat on my porch, drank lemonade, and talked about everything and nothing. Dad talked about you, Kara said one day. He says you remind him of himself many years ago. Is that a compliment? The biggest one he can give. I smiled. June came with the heat. I bought an inflatable pool and set it up in the yard. Saya came for the weekend, and we sat in the pool with cold beer and laughed at silly jokes. You look happy, she said suddenly. Me? Yes. For the first time since I've known you, you look calm, like you're finally in the right place. I thought about it. She was right. I was calm, not happy in that bright, explosive sense, just calm, satisfied with what I had. In July, the phone rang late at night. I was sitting on the porch with a book, Roger napping at my feet. I glanced at the screen, an unknown number. I almost hung up, but something stopped me. I answered. "Hello? Vera, it's Dad." I froze. 6 months of silence, and suddenly his voice, so familiar, so distant. "Hi," I finally said. "How are you?" "Fine, how are you?" "Fine too." Pause. Heavy breathing. "Listen, I wanted to ask, maybe we could meet, just talk. Without Mom, without Ginny, just the two of us." My heart was pounding. Part of me wanted to say yes right away, but another part, a new part, was more cautious. "Maybe," I said slowly, "but only if you're willing to listen. No blaming, no excuses, just listen." A long pause. I waited, barely breathing. "Okay," he finally said. "I'm ready." "Then call me next week. We'll set something up." "Okay." Another pause. "Vera?" "Yes?" I missed you." My throat tightened. Tears welled up in my eyes. "Me too," I whispered. He hung up. I sat with the phone in my hands, looking at the starry sky above my head. I didn't know what would happen next. Would we be able to rebuild our relationship? Would he understand me? Would I be able to forgive him? But it didn't matter as much as it used to, because I was no longer the Vera who lived in a pink room and paid $2,500 for the right to exist. I was Vera, who had her own home, her own cat, her own job, her own rules. I am Vera, who has finally learned to say no. I am Vera who feels at home for the first time in her life. Truly. Roger stretched, jumped off the porch, and ran into the darkness of the yard to catch butterflies. I smiled, got up, and went into the house. I turned on the light in the living room. A warm yellow color flooded the room. My walls, my paint, my choice. Tomorrow will be a new day. Maybe Dad will call. Maybe not. Maybe Mom will forgive me someday. Maybe not. But I'll be here, in my house, with my life, with myself. And that's enough.